Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, or probably whatever time you're listening to this edition of Test to Testimony. My name is Dr. Tina Ibironke, and I am going to be the one sharing with you tonight a few things that I believe you or somebody else may actually be able to learn, or at least can. And I believe that if you're listening to this, it is not your own doing. It is because God has directed you here. So please, I do want you to listen. Maybe share some things you might want to share. Maybe there's some things you probably can make use of. I don't know, but I know the Lord has actually directed you to the right place. With that said, again, how you all doing? This is Tina. This is Dano, Diaspora African Network of Powerful Professionals, where we come together not only to share the word of God, but also to empower ourselves in different areas. So tonight, we'll continue with our series, Test to Testimony. We started out this month, and the Lord has helped us. We have shared stories that came from challenging times to a place where it became a testimony. And also, we've been backing this up with a book written by John Maxwell and Rob Hoskins called Change. The title of the book is Change Your World. We have defined what your world is, and we started by taking one or two things and ideas from the experts. And when we started back 4 weeks ago, we shared stories just to encourage us, things that we can look at, how we can look at our situations a little differently, and how we can actually make a change from where we are, regardless of what we find ourselves doing or whatever we are. Maybe you're in the middle of a situation, a challenging one. Maybe you're at the end of that situation and there's lights at the end of the tunnel. There's a reason. And that's what this platform, this series is about. That for as a believer, and I do want to stress that as a believer, there's a reason why you are going through whatever it is that you're going through. And I pray tonight that the Lord will open your eyes to see where you are, to see how you can change your world. And if you're already doing so, the Lord will continue to empower you to do more. So we are going to round up the session of this part of the book, the title that we've titled Testimony, and the summary. We've done a bit of, we have not covered the book and we have not done justice. We just took a few points to point us in the right direction of how we had definition of changing your world, what your world represents, who actually does the change, which is you and I, how we can come together, pull people together, naturally, so that we can see our vision, the goal, what God is directing us to do, and how we can keep talking about it. That for the most part, you're probably not going to be able to do it by yourself, or at least we started, but you probably need people along the way. So we have pointed out a couple of stories and a couple of ideas and ways that people have actually, what people have done for them to pave the way, or at least how they have turned their tests to testimony, and they've allowed that testimony to be known to the world so that people can also learn from it. So today we're going to finalize that part of this series, and we'll be talking about, I believe this is maybe big enough for everybody to know. We'll have a story in this particular organization. I did learn a few new things about the organization, which was actually very interesting because I've known about the organization for a while, but I just didn't realize that the organization actually had the acronym, what it represented, and a couple of things that this particular organization has done since its existence. But we'll talk about that later. But today we'll round up by actually is one of the points that was made in the book, Change Your World by John Maxwell and Rob Hoskins. The point that I'm trying to make today, or that we'll make a roundup today with, is it's your turn to change the world. We're not going to wait for everybody else. You're not going to keep looking. We're not going to keep watching. It is our turn. And wherever we are, we already know that your world is where God has placed you, whatever it may be. Your world is your job. Your world is your home. Your world is your community. Your world is your neighbor. Your world is probably among your friends, among the organization where you volunteer at. That is your world. Wherever you exist, wherever you are, however you're functioning, we need to make that our world and start the change today. And as I'm talking to you, I'm talking to myself, reminding myself that whenever I find myself, every step of the way, I have to start thinking about how I can make a difference in order to impact lives, change lives, add value, and be able to express the love of God to people around me. So today we're finalizing with this particular, again, I'll repeat it, it's your turn to change your world. No more waiting. No more pointing fingers. No more excuses now, or no more complaints. What we need to do is to start the change where we are. I know some people may be complaining about, oh, my vision, my goal, it's going to take a whole lot of resources. It's going to take a whole lot of money. It's going to take manpower. It's going to take this. It's going to take that. I don't have time. It's so much. It's so big. I have these ideas. Well, it's time to stop complaining. Today is the day. Now is the day. If you're listening to this recording, or you are there, you're watching this, or maybe you probably have someone in mind that you have to pass the message to, it is time for you to change your world. So, like I said, if stories we've changed in the back, you can, in the past, sorry, you can actually go and search on YouTube, test the testimonies, and that will tell you, that will give you a couple of the stories that we've shared. But today I want us to move on so that we don't take too much time. I'm going to talk about this organization. I was actually at a meeting, and it was a social meeting by gathering, by the way, and we had a gentleman who was actually a representative from YMCA. So I was about to tell you the organization that I've been trying to tell you, I mentioned in the beginning, is actually the YMCA. And I kid you not, I'm not gonna lie, not until today, I kind of thought I knew what the acronym actually stood for, but for some odd reason, it just jumped out at me when I was trying to figure out and do a little bit of research. So the gentleman was telling us that because in the area that currently that we live, there's no YMCA that I can think of that's close enough. So the representative is saying that he was actually, I think he's been meeting with the agencies and the government, the local governments in the new area where we were, and because they're trying to establish YMCA. So we got into talking and then told a story. But before I start telling you about the story, I really want to just tell you a little bit about YMCA. It's actually the Young Men's Christian Association. I know now they're trying to turn it to Y, but actually the YMCA, which is what I knew years and years ago when I took my daughter. My daughter actually went, my son, sorry. I think both of them actually went to YMCA. My daughter and my son, they both actually went to they were there. There was a daycare, and we took them to YMCA. And that was why it stood out to me when the guy started to mention, gentlemen started to talk about YMCA. So a little bit, I did a little bit of research about YMCA. So like I started to say, it's called, YMCA stands for Young Men's Christian Association, founded by George Williams and his 11 friends. So this man was actually a farmer, and he moved to the city, started working in one of the industries, one of the big businesses, or whatever it was at the time, was actually a factory, and I think they made draperies. So a lot of people were moving from, I guess, the local areas to the cities at the time. And then when he got to the city, he kind of noticed that when people move from rural areas to the cities, after they had probably done working, or maybe they can't find a job, they're kind of walking the streets and getting drunk and going to brothels, and there wasn't nothing for them to do because they came from probably their local towns to actually a city. And of course, they're getting exposed to this. Maybe they came to work, they came for a better life, but there was really nothing beneficial to them that they were doing. So this gentleman, Mr. George Williams, he actually held meetings, prayer and Bible reading meetings. So it wasn't only working in this factory, he also held prayer and Bible reading with fellow workers as well. So he brought not just, it was just not working to make money, it was also there to do one thing as well, to add value, to impact lives by doing prayer and Bible meditations. And he was concerned. So he was looking and around him, like, it's probably thinking to himself, like, okay, there's so many things, people going on here, especially the younger generation. I believe it was probably young at the time, that they were doing nothing, roaming the streets, doing nothing. And that was when the idea came to me, maybe to find a place for them to actually, so that they can, a social gathering incorporated with the fact that it's already having prayer and Bible reading, so that it can also improve them, the wholeness of their life, the wholesomeness of their life. You can improve it. And that was how the idea was born. He looked around, there was a problem, and he wanted to find a solution to that problem. He realized the life of these young men was not going to get better if they keep living a life of just being on the street, getting drunk and going to brothels and just doing whatever, maybe after work. There was nothing to keep them busy. There was nothing to keep their life organized. And if they keep going that way, not even everyone of them actually had jobs. People were just moving to the cities for the fact of, for a need for better life. But that better life, probably if they don't probably get themselves in some sort of work to occupy them, their life was wasting away. All right, that was exactly what George Williams, who was the guy that got his 11 friends together to start the YMCA, that was what he was looking forward to. That was what he wanted. That was the problem he wanted to resolve. How many times do we look around us and we see problems? And we're like, well, somebody else will get to it. And that is why this is very important today, the very last day, like I said, for this, at least this particular series, because based on this book, that it's your turn to change your world. Are we taking a minute, taking a break and look around? What exactly is that your concerns about the way you are? Concerns might not necessarily be something big, something of a large magnitude. It might be probably providing extra food for someone that doesn't bring lunch to work. It might actually be an environment you see probably your neighbor and you've realized that they're not able to probably do because they're busy, they can't cut their lawn, and you probably extend the hand of love by mowing the lawn for them. It might probably be maybe out there in the community, someone you want to carry their bag for, you probably do that just to kind of help people around. I don't know what it is the problem is in your neighborhood, in your environment. Again, we defined change your world without trying to repeat myself as wherever you are, where your life right now, where you exist, where life exists. So it's not just focusing on the fact that you're making money, just like this gentleman. He went, he had a job. He was working the factory, he was doing fine. But in addition to that, he realized that people like it needs to change. So he held Bible studies, he had prayer meetings, but he didn't stop there. He looked at the life of people on the streets like, okay, this life is not going to be better for those people. By the time they probably grow up, they'll probably be, the life will not mean anything, will be meaningless. That was how YMCA got created. And that was a place where, according to what they put it this way, the research said a wholesome recreation, a place for wholesome recreation that will preserve the youth from temptations of alcohol, gambling, prostitution, and promote their good citizenship, promote their life. Let their life, promote their life in such a way that when they grow up, it will make, they will have a meaning, their life will have a meaning. And it really made a lot of sense, especially, of course, years and years later. That was back in 1844, by the way. That was when Y started. And up until today, 2000, I don't know what part of the world you're in, but this actually started in Europe somewhere. That was why this actually started, the organization by Mr. Williams. It was not in the United States. It was actually part of Europe. That's when this actually started. And it's spread to a lot of different countries. It actually spread, of course, to different parts of the world. They have a lot of people, a lot of workers, all over volunteers volunteering because they believe in what this particular man, what this gentleman started. And I want to actually now go to the story, the second part of the story, which, like I said earlier, I met someone at a social gathering, and they were looking for a partnership to build a YMCA in the area that we were in, having the social gathering. So they said it would be meeting organization. I asked the question, how do you get money? He said, oh, maybe it's about, I think it was somebody else that asked him, so how much does it cost you to build Y? I couldn't believe When the gentleman said 20 million, I said, what? 20 million? Where do you get this money? Because in my mind, actually all along, I think I've always thought it was YMCA has always been funded by the government. For some reason, I don't know why I had the idea that YMCA belongs to the government and has always been sponsored by the government. Grants, how probably governments just, they have support all these organizations. I actually thought YMCA was one of them. And he said, oh yeah, we just get money. However, maybe there are grants and we partner with local organizations. Individuals give money. I said, what? Individuals just give money and then you go just into a place where they probably don't have a YMCA in existence and you just build? And they said, yes, that's what they're trying to find partnership here and there. And they start, I said, you actually built for 20 million. They said, yes. And then that's where children come. They are subsidized. Maybe they offer daycare and social activities and just to train these kids and to bring them up and shape their whole life, the wholesomeness of their life. And I'm not, no, I guess I'm not, this is not to, I'm not saying anything against YMCA. I'm saying this ahead of time so that it doesn't sound like, but it's just interesting that the beginning, the background of this was Bible reading and prayer. And it came out of that, and it was to build a spiritual, because back then when it started, they combined social activities with giving tracts on the street as well. So it was not just a social activity. They wanted their whole life to be whole, the entire life, spiritual life and physical life, and they want everything. He was targeting the wholesomeness of this young man. And so when the man that I was previously talking about that I met, he said, well, he had a story for us and he told us about this gentleman. He said he had met him somewhere. I don't know exactly, maybe when he was actually going, probably in one of these, and that's what he does. He goes like different states and try to look for locations and partnerships. I think it's probably national director of that market. I don't know if it's, I don't know what it's marketing or probably just, maybe it's just to get money. I guess let's put it that way. So able to build a Y if this doesn't already exist, YMCA. And he said he met a gentleman while he was doing the campaigning. I don't know, maybe campaigning to get money. And the gentleman just listened to him talk. And the gentleman asked, so we're building YMCA. I said, oh, okay, yeah, well, and give him. And he said he looked at the man and was like, okay, I mean, if you judge by the looks, he's a man, a civil worker, an old, just an old gentleman, probably works as an iron worker or something, just a civil worker. Nothing so outrageous. There's no way to tell that he has $50,000 that he was going to give to this man. So he said, oh, yeah, he just called him. Okay, why don't you come and collect a check or something like that? And he said he went to his house. It's a very small house somewhere on a farm. The guy's working, probably living. He said the guy's been living in the house for years, maybe 50 years or something. And he said that was why he became just a called once in a while. He'll go in and say hello to the guy. So the guy gave him a $50,000 check the very first time that he went to pick up the check. But what was interesting was later on, I think when he started to kind of have some sort of just friendship in terms of probably just checking on him and his wife and all of that. He said one of the days he invited him over and then told him a story about this gentleman that gave him 50,000, this donor that gave him $50,000, invited the representative from YMCA, I guess it's a campaign manager or whatever, I don't know exactly what his title is, and told him and invited him for dinner or something at his house. And he said when they were eating and having dinner, and then the guy told him that when he was growing up, I'm talking about the donor, the man that gave the YMCA rep a check, said when he was growing up that they had problems earlier in life. I believe the parents, maybe the dad was an alcoholic or whatever. And of course, the mom also, there was issues with his parents. I'm not particularly sure. I don't want to say what I don't remember. But what was the part I was trying to get to is he was eventually taken to a foster home. And I think he probably went from one foster home to the other. He said during those years that one thing that kept his sanity was the fact that it keeps him happy. The only time that he's really happy is when he's actually getting ready, or those the days that he gets to go to YMCA. Because that's when he becomes himself is free. Social activities that he can participate in without feeling like an outsider, or without feel like a foster child, that the place was conducive. It made him happy that the only time of his life during those years that he was going through the foster homes was when he goes to YMCA. That YMCA at the time, it was an outlet, the only outlet he had. And ever since that, when he was growing up, that he held onto that memory so much that every time that probably the only time he had that joy in him and excitement is when he's at the YMCA. What if George Williams did not start YMCA years ago? George Williams is dead and long gone. I'm talking about this for a couple of years ago, maybe less than 10 years ago. If he had not started that, somebody like this gentleman, and like me, because I took my children there too, probably would not have had at least that part of his childhood that you can remember and hold on to and say, wow, this was the only time I was able to be myself as a child. And he really looked forward to it. And he held on to those memories that he had at YMCA. What am I trying to say? This gentleman said, it's always been very precious. He held a big place in his heart. YMCA, an organization that he never met the person that actually established it or the 11 friends of that man. The man that had the thought, the goal, the vision, he's never met him. But he made an impact in his life 100 years plus later. Something that was started out of prayer and Bible reading. Something that was started at just 11 people coming together, giving out trust, looking at the life of the young men that were immediately in their environments. They could have just did their job. The guy could have just worked and be fine and it would be done. But he did not just stop there. He looked at them. He said, okay, I'm going to make a change. May your life and my life make a change. May we be able to make change in this generation in the mighty name of Jesus. So just to conclude the story, he said that's why this gentleman that donated $50,000. So that's one of the biggest things that is YMCA, and he loved that, at least that idea, or maybe the organization. I don't know how to put that. And then later on, they called the guy again out of the blues. They called the YMCA representative that's looking for money to build. Called them again and said, you know what, come on, just want to talk to you. And the guy came over, and this was, I don't know how far apart, maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe days, I don't know. And the guy went to his side and said, you know what, I want to donate more. Gave the guy $800,000, a civil worker. I'm not saying a billionaire, I'm not saying a millionaire, I'm not saying he owned company, I'm not saying he owned businesses. This is a worker, he actually regular job guy, living in the same house on a farm for 50 years, gave a check of $800,000. The guy said he could not believe it. That it blew him away. He said he collected $800,000 plus the $50,000 that he gave previously. That made it $850,000. Well, the story didn't end there. He said he just became friends, would check on him. He said one day the guy just said, you know what? I'm an even guy. Give him a check of $150,000 because he wanted to make it $1 million, even $1 million. And by that time, the guy had given $1 million to that organization, to YMCA, that made a difference, made a change, made an impact on his life, on his childhood. Gave the representative $1 million so their lives will be changed, will be impacted in the neighborhood, wherever the guy is trying to build a new YMCA, whatever reason, he was actually putting money together. Another child will be able to benefit from that, from the $1 million that he's given. He's not doing anything. If you're looking at this man, this is just a man that saved all his life, doing his job diligently, and also saving however he's investing the money, doing it diligently. But out of the heart, what he had, the love he had for YMCA, because he made his life enjoyable, at least those times that he was able to go to YMCA when he was young. He made a decision to also pay it forward. And when the guy died eventually, not to actually end the story on a bad note, he wrote in his will $4 million for YMCA. So I don't know. The story really touched me, and I was moved because somebody started, George Williams started this YMCA because truly in his heart, he really wanted this young man and woman to become something. and not just be on the streets as alcoholics and just be gambling, doing all sorts of things. He wanted a better life for them. And it still impacted life after 100 years. And this man is still paying it forward. It has not ended. And I will challenge you today, as I challenge myself, that what is it that God has laid in your heart to start? What are the challenges you're going through? Probably things that you probably think, oh, I can't even think about anybody else. Maybe you need to learn one or two things from those challenges, just like Papa Molly did when he was growing up, when he was left by his parents, living on the streets, stealing, and trying to fight for his life, sleeping on the streets just because the parents abandoned him. Or you're just like this Mr. George Williams, that you had everything you want. You already have everything you wanted. You're already doing everything. You have the money. You are good to go. But George Williams is thinking about somebody else just outside it. Those people that he was thinking about were not his family, relatives, family members. He doesn't know them from Adam. But the love of Christ in him made him to think like somebody's life can be changed just by taking a step of getting a place for them, just to kind of find a social life that is outside the world of gambling, outside the world of alcoholism, a place, a safe place for them to express themselves in a different way, in a social activity, just things to make their life better, to build them wholesomely, while, of course, the word of God, the spiritually. And that is why today, I want to say that, repeat where I started from, it is your turn, it is my turn to change the world. And that's why I'm challenging you as I challenge myself, that we need to look closely, look around. Don't be just focused on those things that you want. Gratifying, we talked about today in church, gratifying everything, gratifying what your flesh wants. One day those things will go away and perish. It is your work that will speak for you. George Williams' work is still speaking for him. 100 years, after 100 years plus, his work that he started on the very small, not knowing, is dead and long gone. Probably never knew there's going to be another one person that will be paying forward and will say, if not for YMCA, my life as a kid probably would have been miserable, probably wouldn't have turned out right. But those moments where he had to go there, he was able to go there and be a child and actually be able to free and behave as a child, just without being judged, made a difference in his life. So for today, you and I, maybe that was the reason God had him go through that, had him see what YMCA is all about, so that I can sow into YMCA and other children coming will also be able to benefit from it. As a matter of fact, he donated as an anonymous person. He didn't even have them mention his name. So really, I don't know. I'm thinking, when I heard the story, I've been thinking, my God, I got to do better than this. This generation, it's not just good on me, just walking through, but making an impact on one or two person next to me. Like I said, a guy donated, it's anonymous, but this work will speak for him. Our work, your work, will speak for us. Whatever we do, God sees it. And God, he is a one that diligently rewards you and I. Regardless of those challenges, troubles that you're going through, the storm that you're going through in your life, believe as a believer, it's time for us to learn from those things and move forward and be able, one way or the other, however you want to do it, step out there and also help someone, add value to someone, change someone's life, change your world. I want to challenge you today. Go forth, go ahead, go outside, step outside your comfort zone and change your world. And the Lord will help you to do so in Jesus' name. With that said, we're going to round up the session tonight. My name is Dr. Tina Ibirunke. It's been wonderful having these sessions with you. We'll continue next month. We'll continue on we'll probably start a different series altogether. But I'm rounding up today telling you, I want to tell you again, I want to repeat, it's time for your turn to change your world. It's my turn to change your world. Enjoy your day wherever you are. I believe the Lord has blessed you. By this word tonight, share this with someone. Let someone hear that it's time for them to change their world. Thank you so much. Really, really happy to have you with us to listen to the session. And I hope you benefited and gained from it. I believe the Lord himself will drop on your heart what you're supposed to do from here on. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.